first candidate is our candidate for the 3rd Congressional District, Michael Mayo. Michael Mayo taught for 25 years as a teacher in public schools. He served 2 years in federal penitentiary for refusing the draft during the Vietnam War. He worked as a truck lumper, an electronics technician, and as a translator for Russian and English. And Michael is also an author of a study of the history of abstract algebra and is now adjunct professor of mathematics at Portland State University. Give it up for Michael Mayo, 3rd District.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in the middle of an election campaign in the middle of a war. The war was started by the United States. The war is intended to enforce American supremacy in the Middle East. We therefore have to confront the fact that we are members of an empire. This empire is an American empire, and it cannot be sustained. It is a simple truth that empires fall. This one of which we are members will soon fall. How can we, as intelligent people in the United States in the year 2008, how can we regard the fact of these extraordinary circumstances through which we are living? How can we handle what to do? In the first place, we want to look and see what happens to empires in the past, and see that we are no different from those other empires in the past. Let's take, if you will please allow me to do so, let's take the Roman Empire. In the Roman Empire, they had 2 Gracchi brothers who fought prior to the establishment of the empire for the Republic, the Roman Republic, to put into practice the social compact that would include the lowest levels of the members of the Republic. Both of those brothers, one 10 years after another, were assassinated by the Senate or the Senate's minions. What happened to the Gracchi brothers took the soul out of the Roman Republic. The empire grew large. The empire extended its dominions throughout the Mediterranean area. But when confronted with peoples who were no longer asking to be given the identity that the Roman Republic could give them, then the Roman Empire began to crumble. In our own country, we had a sense of our common destiny. We have an empire that is based on this idea that the constitutional legalisms, the constitutional protections, the constitutional dignity that we have in our country is worth spreading around the world. That's the basis on which we have decided to rearrange the Middle East, after all. We're going to give them the gift of American democracy. Well, in the United States, Martin Luther King was assassinated, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1968, and that has taken, as a result, a lot of the drive out of the American dream, of the American image of ourselves as a country, of a civilization that can make the world a better place. Now, when that happened, of course, it didn't stop the American empire from getting ever bigger. The American empire has sent its reach across the Pacific into Vietnam. The American empire sent it across the Indian Ocean into the Persian Gulf. Yes, we're bigger, but now what do we stand for? We stand for enforcement of the writ of the White House by force and violence. No one is going to join the American empire under those conditions. No one is going to help the Americans enforce their will around the world. It's just going to be the rest of the world against the United States. And the United States cannot sustain it. No country ever has been able to sustain forever an empire. So when we look here at the British Empire, we see that in their victory of World War II, Winston Churchill, the victor of the war, was turned out by the British. He was defeated in the next election. In order for the people of Britain to include their entire community in a single healthcare system, which he, Winston Churchill, the victor against the Germans, the one who suppressed the Nazi conspiracy to conquer the world and to kill all the Jews, Winston Churchill would never have agreed to health care for all. He was a reactionary politician of the Conservative Party. And the British turned him out. At the time of their very victory in the war, when their empire was no longer. Well, why was their empire no longer? Do you remember the beginning of World War II? Do you know what happened to the British? They were pasted by the Japanese. No longer could they rule in India. No longer could they rule in Africa. They had just been wiped off the map by the Japanese. The Japanese took Malaya. The Japanese bombed their best Prince Edward battleship into the ocean and put the British on the run throughout Asia. No longer were the British able to maintain an empire after their so-called victory in World War II. That is a possibility for us, ladies and gentlemen. If we can follow that example, we do not have to, like the Romans, insist upon going down with a ship. We can, like the British, turn and say we will not continue to have an empire that engulfs the world in a grasp of iron. We can turn our attention to all of our fellow citizens, and we can turn our resources to the prosperity of all of us. An empire, in the Roman case and in the British case, an empire will ignore the poor. An empire will treat the poor as not worth notice. And we have that today. We already have, here in Portland, people sleeping on the streets. What's going to happen with the oncoming economic conditions as a result of the crash of the stock market? I don't have to tell you. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. There's going to be a lot more homeless on the streets. There's going to be a lot more unemployed here in Portland. And is the Oregonian going to go up and tell us how terrible that is? Not at all. They'll be worried about the property owners. They'll be worried about the people who have a lot of money in the stock market and in their bank accounts. That's all they're going to worry about. I ask you as a fellow citizen, you can change and make a difference if you will change your attitude, if you will talk about, if you will bring into the topic of discussion all of the people of the United States, all of the people who are equal members of our community, including our possibilities and our abilities to work together. If we work together with everybody in the United States, now that the empire is in decline, we can make it into a republic that has a future. Thank you.